Uh, Dear panelists, dear friends, good morning. Welcome to this event on advancing social development and social justice through cooperative and social and solidarity economy solutions from the World Social Summit to implementation. And this event is organized today by COPAC, the Committee for the Promotion and Investment of Cooperatives, in partnership with UNDESA, the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, as well as the International Cooperative Alliance, ICA. My name is Matthew Koniak. I'm with UNDESA. I will be your moderator today. Welcome once again to all of you in this room and also to all of those who are watching online. Before we start, maybe I would like, and even though it's very late, but I would like to still wish you a very happy 2026 and also take the opportunity to wish you a wonderful International Year of the Woman Farmer. Now, we meet today at a very crucial time, at a pivotal moment, during this 64th session of the Commission on Social Development. And when I say that it's pivotal, when I say that it's crucial, it's because this CSOC-D 64 is really the first large international UN meeting following the World Social Summit in Doha in November 2025, which, by the way, 2025 was an important year for cooperatives since it was also the International Year for Cooperatives. And so today we will explore why CSOC-D is the mechanism to implement the recommendations of this second World Social Summit. And we are very lucky that we can count on an amazing panel of speakers. And we look forward to discussing many issues, how cooperatives and social enterprises help reduce inequality, how they support inclusive policy frameworks, how they mobilize financing for a fairer future, how they build sustainable and ethical value chains. And we will also speak about a very important initiative that was born out of Doha, which is CM50. And it's a high-level cooperative development initiative that was created specifically to implement the recommendation from Doha. We will hear all about this in a little bit. But for now, let us begin. And we will start with the opening remarks. We're very honored to be joined by His Excellency Ambassador Angbayar Nyandorf of Mongolia. Mongolia, as we all know, is a very significant player in the cooperative movement. It has spearheaded the UN resolution on cooperatives in social development, and it's an honor to welcome you, Ambassador. You have the floor.
Thank you. Excellencies, and distinguished colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen, allow me to express my appreciation to the Committee for the Promotion and Advancement of Cooperatives for organizing this timely and substantive side event and for its continued leadership in advancing cooperatives and in social and solidarity economy within the United Nations system. We welcome this discussion, which builds upon the outcomes of the Second World Summit on Social Development, the Doha Political Declaration, and the legacy of the International Year of Cooperatives 2025. These processes have reaffirmed the importance of inclusive, people-centered, and sustainable development models. The Second World Summit underscored the need to strengthen the social protection, promote decent work, and reduce inequalities. In this context, cooperatives and wider SSE provide practical and effective tools for translating global commitments into action at the national community level. The International Year of Cooperatives 2025 significantly enhanced global recognition of cooperatives as a key development partners. Through the efforts of COPAC, the International Cooperative Alliance, and United Nations entities, important policy guidance and knowledge platforms were developed to support member states in integrating cooperatives and SSE into national strategies. For Mongolia, cooperatives have long been an integral part of our social and economic development. We are proud to have served as a main sponsor of the biannual United Nations General Assembly resolution on cooperatives in social development and to have pioneered the proclamation of the International Year of Cooperatives in 2012 as well as again in 2025. At the national level, we are currently advancing broad-based movement to establish new cooperatives, particularly in rural and community-based sectors, as part of our efforts to promote inclusive growth, social cohesion, and sustainable livelihoods. As part of this national movement, the number of cooperatives in Mongolia has tripled compared with 2022. With almost 9,700 new cooperatives now operating across the country, to support the expansion, more than $200 million in investment loans were provided to herders, enabling improvements in productivity, equipment, and breeding stock. At the same time, we recognize ongoing challenges, including the need for improved access to technology, deeper market integration, professional management, more robust cooperative data. Addressing these requires sustained national efforts accompanied by enhanced international cooperation and technical assistance. Excellencies, colleagues, the objective of today's discussion is to move from commitments to implementation. We aim to explore ways to strengthen coordinated and inclusive policy frameworks, mobilize an innovative and sustainable financing, promote ethical and resilient value chains, and scale up the impact through the initiatives such as SM50. Today, side event provides valuable platform for enhancing experiences, sharing good practices, identifying actionable recommendations for member states and United Nations system. I encourage all participants to engage constructively and to focus on practical outcomes that can support national and international effort in the field of social development. In this regard, we believe that the continued advancement of cooperatives and an SSE requires sustained political commitment, coherent policy frameworks, strengthened international cooperation. By aligning national actions with global commitments, enhancing knowledge sharing, and investing in people-centered institutions, we can ensure that cooperative and an SSE model contribute meaningfully to social justice, economic resilience, and sustainable development. In doing so, we bring us closer to the shared vision affirmed at the Second World Summit on Social Development and under the 2030 Agenda. Let's use this opportunity to further strengthen cooperation among governments, international organizations, civil society, private sector, and reaffirm our shared commitment to building economies that serve people and leave no one behind. I wish you a successful and productive discussions, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for your opening remarks. And now I will turn to my right to Mr. Charles Katonga, who is the Director for the Division for Inclusive Social Development at UNDESA. He also happens to be my boss. So, Mr. Katonga, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Colleagues, good morning. Excellency, Mr. Angbaya Nyamdoj, Permanent Representative of Mongolia to the United Nations, Mr. Jerome Douglas, Director General of the International Cooperative Alliance, colleagues and friends. It is my pleasure to welcome you all, along with those joining us online, to this side event on advancing social development and social justice through cooperatives and social and solidarity economy solutions, from the World Social Summit to implementation. I wish to take this opportunity to recognize Mongolia for its steadfast leadership in championing the General Assembly resolution on cooperatives and social development. Your commitment has helped sustain global momentum in this critical area. I would also like to thank our COPAC partners for their continued collaboration in supporting the growth and development of cooperatives. Distinguished guests, we meet in the margins of the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development, its first session following the historic Second World Summit for Social Development and adoption of the Doha Political Declaration. Why does this matter for our event here today? Member states have given the Commission for Social Development a clear mandate to guide the follow-up to the summit's outcomes and to help shape a coherent global pathway for advancing social development and social justice. Cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy are essential engines of progress along that pathway. In its call for adopting a holistic approach towards the eradication of poverty in all forms and dimensions, the Doha Political Declaration recognizes that social and solidarity economy can play a key role. And in its renewed commitment to inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all, the Declaration identifies support to cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy as an enabling factor. Cooperatives and SSE institutions are among the most trusted, resilient, and community-rooted economic actors driving inclusive development today. A trust that's demonstrated by the United Nations Member States Declaration of its second International Year of Cooperatives in 2025. Across regions, cooperatives are demonstrating what inclusive development looks like in practice. They expand decent work opportunities, including for youth, women, older persons, persons with disabilities, and indigenous peoples. They strengthen urban-rural linkages and expand opportunities for smallholder farmers. Cooperatives strengthen community resilience in the face of climate shocks and economic volatility. They extend financial inclusion to underserved communities and promote democratic participation and community ownership. In short, cooperatives and SSE entities can play a key role in identifying and demonstrating credible, practical approaches for addressing progress. Today's event is an opportunity to bring that evidence and experience directly into the Commission's deliberations. It will help show how cooperatives and SSE can be more systematically integrated into national strategies, UN programming, and the emerging follow-up framework for the Doha commitments. And it will highlight the kinds of partnerships, including initiatives like the CM50, that can accelerate innovation and scale. I look forward to the insights that will emerge from this discussion, and together we can ensure that the commitments made in Doha translate into tangible improvements in people's lives and livelihoods. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Katuanga. And now we will go on my left and we'll hear the welcoming remarks from the Director General of the International Cooperative Alliance, ICA, Mr. Jerome Douglas. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And Your Excellency, Ang Bayar from Mongolia, Charles Katuanga, Director UNDESA. It's a great honor to be here. All the others participating, cooperative friends and other friends. And it's been mentioned by Mr. Katuanga, but I would like to reiterate our deep gratitude to the nation of Mongolia that has given us, through your fight and push, this wonderful gift of the International Year of Cooperatives, together with Kenya, but Mongolia has taken the lead. And as a movement of 1 billion members, you may have not an idea what kind of euphoria it has created in over all the countries. As I understand, through COPAC, our joint body, UNDESA, has issued its logo to 124 countries and over 2,000 times. So you can imagine that what you have created with this resolution has been a true gift and joy to the cooperative movement. And also later on, as mentioned, you have been pushing for the adoption of the resolution 15 December last to ensure that we are having this moment every decade. It is therefore that we are now planning, in direct contact with your colleagues in Mongolia, a high-level visit to pay tribute in the last week of March. President of the International Cooperative Alliance, the Vice President of the Asia Pacific Group, myself, and some others will make a visit to Ulaanbaatar. So thank you for that. I also want to thank UNDESA for its permanent commitment and support in delivering, actually, the International Year of Cooperatives. You've done a great job, I have to say. It's been hard work, but it's been worthwhile, let me just say that. We started it off with the official launch, well, actually the soft launch in this very room in July 2024, when lots of cooperatives were there, and then the official launch that took place in New Delhi, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi was inspiring us by telling that India has a cooperative soul with 800,000 cooperatives and 320 million members. Also, the video message of Secretary General of the United Nations was very well received. Mr. Guterres was very clear. He gave us an assignment. He said, use the year and ensure that at the end of the year you come with something tangible and lasting. That's what we've done. The whole year we've been developing lasting initiatives in every corner of the cooperative communities, in regions, in localities. We've been building on law improvements. We have now over 55 countries who have a cooperative law and improving. We have done a lot of advocacy, business-to-business connections. And one of the elements that really have like a global span is this CM50, as we have heard it, Cooperatives Mutuals 50. That is the, let's say, concrete, tangible, deliverable, visible at the closing event, which took place on the 4th of November, when we had the Second World Social Summit in Doha, Qatar. Mr. Katwanga was witnessing and speaking during that very event. So we were thankful for that. So then, to expand a little bit on what is CM50 all about, you need to understand the International Cooperative Alliance, founded in 1895, has one major mission, and that is to unite the cooperative movement in all its diversities, in all its sectors, in all its cultural tones. But the amazing thing with cooperatives is this owner-driven enterprise model, democratic, inclusive, with good wealth distribution among members and investing in communities, is superseding cultural differences because it is the most skilled alternative to raw capitalism, with cooperatives in virtually all the countries of the United Nations. And under the united workflow, we have three pillars of work. One is to maintain our culture, to protect our identity. The second one is the glue, is to enable the work through policy, advocacy, and law support. That is to promote our mission. But the last element needs more support, and that is to practice our work through what cooperatives want, to have cooperation among cooperatives, our sixth principle. Mr. Brodsky will speak more on that later on. Just briefly, what has CM50 achieved? We bring now 50 CEOs, leaders from the larger co-ops in the world together as the antidote, one could say, of the World Economic Forum, and where we want to develop in the years to come a cluster of not only 50, but probably 500 and maybe even 5,000 business leaders that really want to make a statement to build a new global economy. That's the title of our program. And we hope to be able, with this program and with all the other support, to double the economy of the cooperatives, which is now at 2.7 trillion. If you look at our last World Cooperative Monitor under the 300 largest co-ops, and by the next International Year of Co-ops, we want to make it into 5.4 trillion US dollars business. So enlarging the work of co-ops in the global economy is the main purpose of CM50. By doing this through community strengthening, our first committee, by ensuring proper access to capital, which is our second commitment. The third one is by building our own cooperative digital democratized cloud, our third commitment, and Mr. Brodsky will speak on that in particular. Our fourth commitment is building global healthy food systems, connecting climate smart farming, regenerative agriculture with retailers, with banks, and ultimately also connecting it to our health co-ops, because we know in the next 20 years our bill for health will increase with 400 to 500%, and that's simply unsustainable. So rather than doing that, we need to prevent and build healthy nutritional diets as one of the methods to avoid getting ill. And last but not least, it's also about further promoting education. So that's CM50 in a nutshell, and I would like to thank this people here for my address. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Douglas, for your remarks and the information that you provided, including on CM50, and we will hear a little bit more about it later on. And before we get to the part of the event that deals with the panel and then questions from the audience, I'd like to now pass the floor to my colleague, Rashmi Banga of UNDESA, who will make a presentation which I believe the title is Compounding Risks, Technology, Climate and Geopolitics in the Social Inclusion Agenda. This topic, which relates very directly to the world of cooperatives that we are discussing today, is in the upcoming 2026, if I'm not mistaken, edition of DESA World Social Report Series. And the 2025 edition of the report is now available. It discusses policy frameworks to accelerate social progress. Now, your presentation, Rashmi, as I understand, will look at the growing challenges to social inclusion arising from rapid technological advances such as AI, climate change, and also increasingly so the fragmented geopolitics. So you have the floor for the next 10 minutes or so. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. So this presentation, just to give you a context, in this presentation, I'm going to explore, share with all of you some of the issues that are being explored in the World Social Report 2026, which will be launched later in the year. The WSR is being prepared by the Economics Division in close collaboration with the Social Division and with inputs from other divisions of DESA, like DPIDG, FSDO, and Statistics. Now, you all just mentioned about how important the role of cooperatives is. And what we are looking at now is this role is becoming even more critical because of the growing AI divide, accelerating climate disruptions, and increasingly fractured geopolitics, which are creating profound barriers to social inclusion. So the World Social Report looks at how can countries guide cooperatives can play, especially in these challenging times. Now we know most of our countries are undergoing a rising deindustrialization. Almost 100 countries in the past 25 years experienced a decline in the share of manufacturing and agricultural value added in GDP. So it was mainly services rising. While the economic models would predict that a rise in share of services would lead to higher growth and will address existing inequalities, what we see is this is not happening. In fact, if you look historically, the inequalities between countries is growing even more rapidly, especially after 2000. Within country, inequalities are also rising, and it is not just in the developing countries. In the past 25 years, more than 50 countries, including 23 high-income countries, have seen a rise in their within-country inequalities. And we also know concentration of wealth has increased steadily. The global wealth in the hands of top 1% increased from 68% to 76%. And we know the number of billionaires are growing, as well as now we have trillionaires coming in. So how is the technological revolution really impacting the existing inequalities? Well, it is not just increasing the existing inequalities, it is also bringing in new exclusions and adding new forms of inequalities. If you look at the AI divide, now AI is different because from other technologies, I would say, because of the speed at which AI is advancing, the scale at which it is spreading in the sense that billions of dollars are being invested, and the way it is cross-cutting all sectors. So AI divide is really adding to the existing inequalities. And what we find is that if you look at the AI preparedness index, it is in high income countries, there is a much more readiness for AI as compared to the middle income and low income countries. And concentration of AI preparedness, if you look at the patterns, if you look at the data centers, it is in the hands of few countries. So how does AI really add to social exclusions? What we find is that unequal access excludes marginalized communities. What is happening is that AI divide is producing compound social exclusions affecting education, income, health, voice, identity, and dignity. It transforms inequality from material to capability-based, which is harder to correct unless addressed systematically. For example, students without devices fall behind and face a long-term disadvantage, creating learning poverty that becomes intergenerational. It raises financial exclusions, and then the algorithm biases further exacerbate the future exclusions. There are health exclusions, there are exclusions in terms of role of civic and political communities, there are gender gaps, and there is unequal representation in AI decision making. All of this are really adding to really disadvantaging the marginalized group even further. Another critical global challenge which is compounding these issues in terms of progressing on social inclusion is climate change. And if you look at, there are some very eye-opening statistics here. The rising heat wave is killing 1% per minute. The overall exposure to high temperatures has resulted in 639 billion hours of lost labor in 2024, which caused a loss of 6% of national GDP in least developed countries. Of 1.1 billion multidimensionally poor people, almost 80% are exposed to at least one climate hazard, whether it is high heat, drought, floods, or air pollution. So marginalized groups which often lack representation in climate planning or climate negotiations, they are being further disadvantaged because of this fast accelerating climate change. Now coming to the geopolitics, I think we are all impacted by the fragmented geopolitics, and it is hindering the social agenda. World is increasingly splitting into rival blocs, competing for dominance in political, economic, and security spheres with weaker cooperation. We find that state-based, one-sided, as well as non-state violence or number of violent conflicts is rising, and especially after 2010. If you look at only in 2025, the violent conflicts have become much more diffused internationally, because 78 countries in 2025 were engaged in conflicts beyond their borders, leading to major power competition and lower probability of conflict resolution. All 9 nuclear-armed states are expanding their atomic arsenals since 2022. So this geopolitical fragmentation it impacts social inclusion from different channels. The most important one is that the focus on strategic competition weakens the collective efforts to address critical global socio-economic issues. Governments are prioritizing defense, security, and strategic industries over social sectors like healthcare, social protection, housing, and employment programs. Lower social investment is further disproportionately affecting low-income groups, women, migrants, rural population, and further marginalizing the disadvantaged groups. Competition for economic dominance is leading to unequal access to technology, resources, and knowledge. Now, coming to the need, what really needs to be done over here, if countries need to progress on their transformations, whether it is economic, digital, or energy transition, there is a need for a paradigm and systemic change for shared and sustainable prosperity. And one strong message that is going to come out in the WSR 2026, which is the forthcoming World Social Report, is social inclusion should not be treated as an it should be treated as an investment and not an expenditure by the governments. What we find is that local and decentralized development approaches are needed to empower people and local economies. There is a need to democratize access to digital technologies, platforms, and energy. And I think cooperatives here become a key implementation partners. There is a need to shift from concentrated ownership to distributed participation in digital and green assets. Again, cooperatives can shape transitions to be more inclusive. There is a need to move away from logic of profit to the logic of need, from competition to cooperation, and exploitation to emancipation. There is a need to have a paradigm shift from extractive to regenerative economic system, and finally from global competition to cooperation on shared infrastructures. And I think the forthcoming WSR is going to benefit a lot from the discussions in the Social Commission, and especially from this session. And we will be taking the messages from this session into the policy recommendation in the forthcoming WSR. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rashmi, for your presentation. Really appreciate it, and how you have pointed to the important fact that, of course, social inclusion is not a cost, but an investment. And we'll come back to that, I'm sure, in the course of the panel, which now will be moderated by Mr. Doug O'Brien. So, Mr. O'Brien, you will moderate the panel. Just before, I'd like to say just a few words about your impressive resume, because you're the president and CEO of the National Cooperative Business Association, CLUSA International. Prior to being president and CEO, you worked at the White House Rural Council, and you served in top positions at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and you also worked in the U.S. Senate, in the U.S. House, and for 2 governors. And you also taught at the University of Arkansas and at Drake University. So it's quite a complete CV, and congratulations, and I'll pass you now the floor for moderating this panel.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, partners, and friends, both in the room and online. I am Doug O'Brien, and I work with the National Cooperative Business Association, which is the umbrella group for all kinds of cooperatives here in the United States, where more than 1 in 3 people are members of cooperatives. It is a pleasure to moderate this conversation at a moment when cooperatives in the broader social and solidarity economy are receiving increased attention. Coming out of the World Social Summit, the Doha Political Declaration, and the International Year of Cooperatives, there has been a real shift in how cooperatives are recognized. These declarations matter because they don't just acknowledge cooperatives, they recognize them as practical tools for expanding decent work, building inclusive value chains, growing local prosperity, and empowering communities. That recognition matters, and as Jeroen mentioned, it's deeply appreciated from the cooperative community. It signals that cooperatives aren't a side note to development policy, they are part of a core strategy. From my perspective as a director on the board of International Cooperative Alliance and my role at National Cooperative Business Association, I see clearly that the declarations and commitments do real work. They raise visibility, they align priorities, they create space for cooperatives to be taken seriously. In that sense, they are absolutely necessary, but they are not sufficient. You know, the reality of inequality, as Dr. Banga just laid out, as Howard Brodsky mentioned last night, is clear and very concerning. These are not just numbers. They are representations of a true structural problem. And it shows up everywhere, within countries, between countries, and across generations. It's also deeply gendered. Based on data from the UN Women and the ILO, women globally earn about 77 cents for every dollar earned by men. Now, while progress is happening, it's far too slowly for people living with these consequences. So when we talk about moving from commitments to action, we're not talking about process, We're talking about outcomes and we're talking about people. Here's the good news. The cooperative model works. Globally, cooperatives and mutuals serve more than 1 billion members, operate through around 3 million enterprises, and support roughly 10% of global employment. In sector after sector, finance, food systems, housing, energy, care, cooperatives are already delivering at scale. Cooperatives are not an experiment, they are a proven strategy, and you can see that clearly here in the U.S. Rural electric cooperatives provide affordable, reliable power to about 42 million people, primarily in the rural areas, and their footprint matters. More than 90% of U.S. counties face persistent poverty that fall within the electric cooperative service territories. That happened because communities organized to solve a problem that the market would not, and policymakers created the conditions for people to be able to solve that problem with cooperatives. Credit unions here in the U.S. tell a similar story. According to the National Credit Union Administration, a federal government body, more than 142 million Americans are credit union members, and credit unions hold over $2.3 trillion in assets. And because they are owned by their members, that scale translates into better outcomes at scale, lower loan rates, fair fees, and access to credit for families who would otherwise be shut out. Ownership does matter, and it shows up in people's lives. All of this brings us back to the moment we're in now. The Doha Political Declaration, the International Year of Cooperatives, and a growing body of commitments have set the table. The case has been made, the evidence is there. Now the question is whether we meet this moment. Do we translate recognition into investment? Do we turn policy language into implementation? Do we build partnerships that actually scale what works? That's why today's conversation matters, and this panel brings together leaders focused not on theory, but on results. The goal isn't to restate why cooperatives matter. It's to get practical about how we can use them better and deliver the outcomes this moment demands. With that, I'm looking forward to the discussion and to hearing from colleagues on how cooperatives and SSE enterprises can help us meet this moment together. And with that, I'd like to first introduce Ms. Agata Wozniak, a counselor with the EU delegation to the UN, to share remarks. Ms. Wozniak.
Much and good morning, everyone. And I would like to express my appreciation to the organizers for allowing me this opportunity to share a few experience of the European Union, and of course. Starting with the Doha Declaration that has been mentioned a couple of times by the previous speakers, we are very happy that our endeavors to have a recognition of the role of cooperatives and social and solidarity economy, as well as commitments at the highest political level to create enabling environment for cooperatives and social and solidarity economy, they did find a consensus to find their way to the Doha Political Declaration. In the European Union, I will maybe share some experience that we have within the EU on the Social and Solidarity Economy Action Plan, adopted in 2021, is our main framework for social economy. It is followed by the Council recommendation on social economy from November 2023. In which EU member states committed themselves to update or adopt strategies for social economy. As social economy organizations, including cooperatives, work towards inclusive societies, it is important to create conducive framework conditions that allow them to develop their full potential so that they can help us deliver on societal goals. The social economy business model, putting people and the planet before profit, helps to create more resilient and socially inclusive societies. But not only this, it is also an important factor for developing regional economic systems. The social economy creates jobs, including for marginalized groups and people in difficult life circumstances, I think it was also mentioned before, that may require some help to integrate into the labor market and to develop their potential. Hence, by investing into social economy and by improving the framework conditions for it, public authorities have a lot to gain. The Social Economy Action Plan has over 60 actions, and I invite you to learn more about it on the EU Social Economy Gateway. So it's a website called EU Social Economy Gateway, and with this website, we improve access to information about social economy and related EU initiatives and funding programs. We still have a lot to do in terms of promoting social and solidarity economy as a concept, because it is, while in some countries it plays a very important role in already in the economy and is widely recognized, in others it is not widely known. In the negotiations, both in the Doha Political Declaration, but also in the negotiation on the social and solidarity economy and sustainable development General Assembly resolutions, there was not really an open opposition to the concept as such, and the only concerns and reservations came from the point of view saying that this is a concept that we don't know. We don't know what it is, and maybe it has a potential, but we will need to find out more about it. So I think there is a full recognition of the potential, and I think that potential is not yet fully used, especially in some countries. While it is very popular and supported and plays an important role across all geographical regions. And this also varies from one EU member state to another. The recognition and role of social and solidarity economy. We therefore recognize mutual learning workshops for public authorities in the EU on various topics related to social economy, and in the ongoing series of workshops we focus on how to improve data about the social economy. The next one will look into, for example, on impact measurement and management. And then in last December, the European Commission, together with the OECD, jointly published a report on social economy in Europe, contributing to competitiveness and prosperity, which included also chapters on care and housing, as well as country information for all 27 EU member states on framework conditions, taxation, and business support. We also support social economy and social finance networks at EU level to foster connections, mutual learning, and awareness raising. At the beginning of March 26, so very soon, the European Commission will take stock of the implementation of the Social Economy Action Plan so far. We will publish the midterm review of this action plan. And with this communication, we will not only look back and see what happened so far and how it worked, but we will also look to present new actions and to advance the social economy. And if any one of you here or online happen to be in Brussels for the EU Social Forum on the 3rd and 4th of March, I would like to invite you to speak to the social economy team in the European Commission in the networking area to learn more about these new initiatives. So this is what we do within the EU. I can also say a few words. I don't know what's the time constraints, but yeah, on the cooperation of the EU globally, and on the impact of EU partnerships and scaling the impact of cooperatives globally. So maybe I would like to here raise 4 points and also a couple of recommendations. First, the strategic value of global networks. Our partnership with the International Cooperative Alliance allows the EU to reach thousands of individual cooperatives through established national federations. This collaboration goes beyond funding. It strengthens business governance, advocacy, capacities, and coordination between regional and global structures. By working through these global networks, we multiply the impact of EU aid far beyond the scope of individual localized projects. Second, the rural and agri-food value chains. EU-supported cooperatives and vital tools for smallholder farmers to access formal markets and improve their bargaining power against larger actions. They are also helping cooperatives move up value chains, directly contributes to poverty reduction and enhances local food security. And these actions are, of course, core in achieving SDGs, especially SDG 1 on no poverty, SDG 2 on zero hunger, and 8 on decent work and economic growth. The third, women and youth. Cooperatives are good, proven platforms to support women economic leadership and create pathways for youth entrepreneurship. Cooperatives play a critical role in formalizing workers from the informal economy, providing them with legal recognition and social protection. This work is directly aligned with the EU horizontal priorities on gender equality, on youth participation in partner countries. And fourth, policy influence and the social and solidarity economy. Our partnerships enable cooperatives to engage in high-level policy dialogue and contribute meaningfully to national development strategies. We support cooperatives in advancing for social and solidarity economy-friendly legal frameworks, ensuring their systematic role is recognized in national law. The goal is to move from project-level results to building a sustainable, systematic role for cooperatives in the global economy. And now for recommendations. Oh, no?
Yeah,
all right.
We deeply appreciate those comments, and I especially took note of how cooperatives and SSEs can really impact those four different communities. And your point that, again, the third time I think it came up, that these are true investments into the community, into society. They're not a cost, but only if people understand the power of these different types of businesses and institutions.
Afternoon and evening, distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends. I am He Jun, Policy Officer in the Rural Transformation and Gender Equality Division at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. It's a privilege to join you at this side event of the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development. Agri-food systems lie at the center of many of today's most pressing global challenges, from food security to inequality, from livelihoods to resilience to climate and economic shocks. While global efforts have delivered important gains, the 2025 FAO State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World report estimates that between 638 and 720 million people faced hunger in 2024 globally. The persistence of these figures reflects structural barriers. Among others, the small-scale and family farmers, particularly women, continue to face in accessing market, services, finance, and decision-making. Across the world, they remain the backbone of agri-food systems, producing a significant share of the food and sustained rural economy. Today, I'm not here to talk about grim statistics. I'm here to talk about solutions that come from the ground up. Across regions, many rural producers rely on cooperatives to access decent jobs, build skills, and jointly market their products. Cooperatives also function as social infrastructure, contributing to social protection, local employment, territorial cohesion, and community resilience. When farmers are isolated, vulnerability persists. when organized in cooperatives or other forms of collective action, agri-food systems become more inclusive, equitable, and resilient. This is why we believe cooperatives are essential to transforming agri-food systems from the ground up. At FAO, we support governments and partners in strengthening enabling environments for cooperatives with a focus on inclusivity and reducing structural barriers, limiting the participation of women, youth, and other marginalized groups. Evidence-based knowledge to inform policy processes is also one of FAO's key priorities. This includes ongoing analysis of how rural institutions drive agri-food systems transformation. We also invest in tools, such as Farm Business School Forward, that improve farm business management, enhance collective action and innovation among small-scale farmers and their organizations, and facilitate national, regional, and global dialogues on good practices in cooperative-led development. Last year, during the World Food Forum, together with the International Cooperative Alliance, we facilitated the Youth Declaration on Cooperatives in Agri-Food Systems, bringing together 32 young cooperators from 26 countries. The declaration highlights gaps in access to land, finance, markets, and governance, and underscores the importance of engaging youth, especially young women. In fact, the UN General Assembly endorsed the FAO-led proposal to declare 2026 as the International Year of the Women Farmer, highlighting their key role as agents of change with their respective communities and cooperatives. Women and young women farmers face compounded barriers in agri-food systems related to land rights, finance, care, and domestic burdens and limited leadership opportunities. Cooperatives and the social and the solidarity economic actors also offer practical entry points to address inequalities by combining economic participation with empowerment, voice, and social recognition. This framing is highly relevant as FAO prepares for the International Year of the Women Farmer 2026. Through cooperatives, women farmers gain access to land, credit, training, and markets that are often out of reach individually. In the International Year of the Women Farmer, cooperatives stand out as proven pathways to recognize women as producers and leaders of resilient agri-food systems. FAO's role in the International Year of the Women Farmer includes facilitating UN-wide collaboration, strengthening partners with governments, cooperatives, social society, and development actors, and leveraging UN platforms to amplify policy dialogues and local stories. Convening stakeholders enables FAO to mobilize technical knowledge, partnerships, and resources that reinforce women's agency and economic participation. The International Year of the Women Farmer provides an opportunity to consolidate existing efforts to support rural women, cooperatives, and inclusive institutions. To make it count, we must move from vision to action. We encourage member states, UN agencies, cooperatives, and social and solidarity economic actors to align their policies, programs, and partnerships around the leadership and the rise of women farmers and their organizations. But momentum cannot stop there. As we transition from the International Year of Cooperative 2025 into implementation, sustained coordination will be essential. Platforms like the Committee for Promotion and Advancement of Cooperatives offer vital spaces for joined-up action and collective impact. At FAO, we stand ready to work with our partners, particularly ICA and COPAC, to advance the shared goal of empowered women transforming agri-food systems in and through cooperatives, contributing to more just, inclusive, and resilient agri-food systems for all. Thank you.
Mr. He, and I think I really appreciate the highlight of the intersection between these 2 years. We're almost at that intersection on our calendar of the International Year of the Cooperatives and the International Year of Women Farmers. And certainly by using cooperatives in the food system and as farmers, women are not only leaders of the food systems, but they're owners, and they actually can control part of that food system. So we appreciate, and your message of partnership and coordination. Now we have the honor of hearing from Ms. Fabiola Mata from the Organization of Brazilian Cooperatives.
Good morning, everyone, distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, cooperative friends from around the world. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Brazilian cooperative movement and the Organization of Brazilian Cooperatives at such an important moment. And when we talk about the SDGs and global challenges, it is easy to stay at the level of big concepts and distant targets, but the cooperative story is where those goals become real. People coming together because alone they cannot overcome the barriers they face, whether it is access to markets, to finance, essential services, or simply the chance to build a dignified life where they live. And this is why cooperatives are not only economic actors, they are agents for transformation. Grounded in democratic governance, solidarity, and community ownership, they are uniquely positioned to advance the 2030 agenda. By organizing people around shared needs through member-owned enterprises, cooperatives lower the cost of essential goods and services, expand access to markets and finance, promote decent work, and help retain locally generated value within communities. Cooperatives also provide a powerful platform for women's empowerment and social inclusion. When women participate as members, entrepreneurs, producers, and leaders, they can gain improved access to resources, markets, training, and decision-making. This message is especially timely, as was said right now, we celebrate the International Year of the Woman Farmer. In an increasingly uncertain global context, cooperatives strengthen resilience through mutual support and shared risk. They expand access to essential services in underserved areas while building stronger, more cohesive communities. In Brazil, this impact is tangible. OCB represents around 26 million members across 4,000 cooperatives, generating shared prosperity in both urban and rural areas. A joint study by OCB and FIPE confirms the measurable value of this model, linking cooperatives to higher GDP per capita, job creation, and strong returns on investment, demonstrating an approach that is both economically sound and socially driven. But here's the turning point in this story and what our moderator addressed about taking action, about implementation. This scale is not only the result of good intentions, it depends directly on the environment in which cooperatives operate. Policy frameworks are the true accelerators because they transform what cooperatives already do well locally into something that can grow nationally and contribute more consistently to global challenges and the SDGs. When governments provide legal certainty, modernize their business environment, and adopt sector-specific rules that reflect how cooperatives operate, they create the conditions for cooperatives to invest, innovate, and expand services. In Brazil, between the first and the second International Year of Cooperatives, so from 2012 to 2025, OCB's coordinated approach with policymakers translated into more than 100 regulatory and policy advances, helping cooperatives grow while staying aligned with their values and principles. And when cooperatives have structured strategies and legitimate channels to engage with decision makers, public policy becomes more coherent and more responsive. This matters because supportive, coherent frameworks create a virtuous cycle. Cooperatives expand their social, economic, and environmental footprint, creating decent work, improving access to service, and strengthening resilience, while their results build confidence among policymakers and unlock further partnerships. And like our ICA General Director addressed, that is how we build a new global economy, with co-ops in partnership with governments and communities. That is why we would like to call on UN member states to treat cooperatives not as exceptions, but as a strategic partners for economic development, social inclusion, democratic participation, and sustainability. This call is even more timely because the United Nations has decided to institutionalize the International Year of Cooperatives on a recurring basis every 10 years, thank you for that, to encourage sustained commitment and policy continuity beyond 2025. So let us use this decade cycle to embed cooperative solutions into national plans, UN programs, and financing pathways so we can deliver together a more just, inclusive, and resilient future. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Ms. Mata. I deeply appreciated your concrete and on-the-ground rooted examples and your emphasis on policy frameworks as the true accelerants to create more investment, innovation, and expansion in communities. So thank you for that. Now we will have the honor of hearing from Ms. Samel Asim, who's the head of the ILO Co-op and SSE sector, and also the chair of the UN Interagency Task Force on the SSE.
Chair, Excellencies, side event takes place at the first major UN moment after the Second World Social Summit and the International Year of Cooperatives 2025. There is a global development emergency with persistent and new challenges reversing social development gains. Economic structures are changing faster than the capacity to govern them. When that gap widens, insecurity grows, trust weakens, and societies find it harder to sustain a shared direction. At the multilateral level, the capacity to act together is under strain, yet shared commitments continue to provide a basis for sustained follow-up. Cooperatives and other social and solidarity economy entities are practical ways to organize work, services, and livelihoods so that social development and social justice are advanced in lived realities. They can complement other pathways to democracy at work by providing workers and economic units with structures grounded in voluntary cooperation and mutual aid, democratic or participatory governance, autonomy and independence, and the primacy of people and social purpose over capital. They can widen access to opportunities and essential services, contribute to more secure livelihoods, and support fairer terms of participation in supply chains and local economies. In times of crises, they can also play a stabilizing, counter-cyclical role that supports economic security by sustaining jobs and livelihoods and maintaining services when other systems falter. Support for cooperatives and for the wider social and solidarity economy has strengthened significantly in recent years. At the ILO, the adoption in 2022 of a resolution on decent work in the social and solidarity economy and the follow-up strategy and action plan through 2029 were milestones building on a long-standing constitutional, normative, policy, institutional, and statistical mandate on cooperatives. The United Nations General Assembly resolutions on cooperatives and on the social and solidarity economy, including the proclamation of 25 as the International Year of Cooperatives, with the next one in 2035, have elevated this agenda across the multilateral system. The next Secretary General's report on the social and solidarity economy for sustainable development is anticipated later this year. The Doha Political Declaration recognized that the social and solidarity economy can play a key role in eradicating poverty, promoting social inclusion, and catalyzing social transformation, thus helping to achieve the objective of leaving no one behind and to achieve the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals while ensuring social development for all. It also committed to creating an enabling environment for entrepreneurship, in particular for women, persons with disabilities, older persons and youth, and to promoting cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy. This was consistent with the Sevilla commitment adopted earlier last year, which encouraged support for social and solidarity economy entities, including access to tailored financial and non-financial assistance from local, national, and international financial institutions. Despite these commitments, the unfolding trajectory raises serious concerns. Inequality is widening, insecurity is deepening, and fiscal and institutional constraints are tightening, just as needs are rising, making implementation more urgent, yet harder. As reflections begin on the post-2030 development agenda and in preparation for the 5-year follow-up process starting in 2031, cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy entities should be given due consideration as practical pathways for poverty eradication, full and productive employment and decent work for all, social integration, and social justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In respect to time for the panel today, I just want to take a moment to thank all of the contributors to this conversation for truly highlighting the importance of a comprehensive ecosystem of support and the wisdom of investing in cooperatives and SSEs to address inequality and other social challenges. With that, I'd like to hand it back, Mr. Cognac.
Thank you so much, Mr. O'Brien. Thank you for moderating this panel. It's very clear that we are now at a very opportune time, at a moment of truth where we should and we can capitalize on the momentum, particularly that has been created by Doha, to push forward with public policies that involve cooperatives. It has been said, and it's very clear, the cooperatives are a proven method. We all know that. I personally come from France, where every other bottle of wine comes from a cooperative, so we know how important cooperatives are and how much they are a proven method. But there is more that can be done. Let's take advantage of this moment. And I mentioned in my opening statement something about CM50, and then it was taken on by several other speakers as well. So we have here Mr. Howard Brodsky, who will tell us a little bit more about CM50, this initiative that brings 50 of the largest cooperatives together to advance on the implementation of Doha. So Mr. Brodsky, you are the co-founder and chairman of CCA Global Partners, which ranks among one of the largest retail companies in America, but happens to be a cooperative owned by its members under the principle of one man, one vote. You'll, I'm sure, tell us about it. It's a pleasure to welcome you and to hear from CM50 directly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Discussion not only today, but during the social conference is so critical at a time when the inequality we know and the information that was given earlier is just growing at a rapid pace. I think sometimes when we see numbers and we say that 3.5 billion people became poorer, behind every number there's a person. Behind every number there's somebody without food, without housing, a child that's not going to get education or vaccines. And so it is so critical, I think, in today to address not just numbers, but thinking of all the people that we need to serve. And we know that co-ops make a difference. They truly can bring in equality. They believe in the sustainability goals. The question is not, do we make a difference? Is that we need to make a difference at a greater, faster pace. And CM50 was about that, is how do we have more co-ops perform better and quicker? CM50 brought together not only the largest and most influential cooperatives and mutuals in the world, but something even more important, a way to make cooperation itself work at scale. Through its 5 initiatives, CM50 is providing the access, the structure, and the coordination the cooperative movement needs to grow and to shape a more inclusive global economy. The World Social Summit at Doha was not about producing another declaration. It was about moving from vision to execution, from commitment to contracts. And that is precisely what CM50 exists to do. It is not just a convening platform, it is a structural platform designed to turn influence into action. And together, the initiatives from CM50 create conditions for scale, not in theory, but in practice. And within this framework, I serve as co-chair of Commitment 3, Cooperation Among Cooperatives. That commitment sits at the center of CM50 for a reason. Because cooperation is the multiplier, it is how progress in finance, leadership, resilience, and influence accelerates and reaches more people more equitably. But Commitment 3 starts with a very honest assessment. The cooperative movement already has extraordinary strengths, scale, value, trust, and local presence. What we have historically lacked is shared infrastructure. Infrastructure that allows cooperatives to systematically collaborate, share intelligence, learn from one another across borders and sectors. Too often, strong local solutions remain local. Best practices are rediscovered instead of reused. Learning happens, but not fast enough to match the pace of inequality, climate disruption, and social exclusion. It is not a failure of principles, it is a structural gap. And that is the gap that CM50 is now addressing. Cooperation among cooperatives is not just a value, it is an economic and organizational infrastructure. An infrastructure that allows good practice to spread quickly and local success to become global progress. One of the keys to this is being implemented through the Principle 6 Cooperative, P6. It is a global cooperative owned by its members and built explicitly to operationalize cooperation at scale. It is not a concept or a pilot, it is live infrastructure. P6 functions as global collaboration and intelligence network for cooperatives. It provides a shared digital background that can allow cooperatives to connect across regions and sectors, exchange operational knowledge, and turn lived experiences into shared insights. What cooperatives know locally about governance, inclusion, job creation, resilience, and growth becomes a collective asset for the global movement. Importantly, this happens without compromising cooperative autonomy. Ownership remains local. Control remains democratic. Technology serves the moment, not the other way around. Principle 6 demonstrates something critical, that value-based models can lead in future-ready systems, including cooperative-controlled approach to digital infrastructure and AI. They're not extractive, they're not centralized, but designed to accelerate learning, improve outcomes, and scale social impact responsibly. That is where the full CM50 framework really comes together. Principle 6 strengthens voice and influence by enabling coordinated evidence-based advocacy. It supports access to finance, improves transparency, and shared learning. It accelerates education and leadership by training real-world cooperative experience into scalable learning. And it reinforces resiliency and sustainability economies by spreading proven models faster than crisis spread harm. And that is so critical. We need to move at a faster pace. This is how CM50 moves from influence to implementation. Social development and social justice are not achieved by isolated interventions. They require systems that allow enterprises that distribute ownership, create decent work, and anchor value locally to learn from one another. They require embracing AI as a powerful partner, one, when guided by human values, can extend our reach, amplify inclusions, and help shape a future where technology serves people and communities alike. The Doha contract makes clear offer cooperatives and mutuals are ready to partner with government, multilaterals, and civil society, not just as advocates, but as implementers. The infrastructure to deliver is being built. The question is no longer whether cooperative solutions work. They do. The question is whether we're willing to invest collectively in a shared system that allows us to shape the future at scale that this moment demands.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brodsky, for presenting us CM50, this shared infrastructure that brings cooperatives together and that work together for development, social inclusion, and ultimately social justice. Thank you so much for the presentation. We are soon coming to an end of this event. Before we do so, I would like to know if there are any questions, any comment that anyone in the room would like to raise. It's the opportunity now. Yes, please.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing Queen Mother to speak. I was in Doha. And it's befitting for many of us who were not there. The time is implementation. Many cannot wait for the conversation we continue to have amongst ourselves. And I was very pleased to see agriculture. If we cannot feed ourselves, then what do we do? And so implementation for those women farmers that are standing there and needing us. And what means will we have sitting at the table here to forge with member states and other actors and actresses towards strong implementation? The time has come, and I thank you.
Thank you so much for this comment. Do I see any other comment? We don't have much. I'm sorry?
Can I add just one?
You would like to add? Please, go ahead, and then we'll come to you.
Well, I just wanted to add that 2026 is also International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, and so let's also keep that in mind for our common goal. And thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm very sorry we don't have time for other comments. We really have to move on. There's another event that will take place in this room. Just before we close, I would like to pass the floor now to my dear colleague Andrew Alimadi, whom many of you know because he heads our work on cooperatives at UNDESA. And perhaps, Andrew, you can give us maybe your views on this event, the conclusions and the recommendations going forward.
Let me speak anymore. I'm so sorry, everybody. I have to start with the bad news. The other people are already coming in for their meeting, so we have to vacate. And I just have to thank first Your Excellency, Ambassador Nam Josh, for joining us, and also all our COPAC colleagues, all the speakers. This is really a sad moment for me to say goodbye to everybody, but we will, the implementation, of course, is going to proceed. We have already heard from CM50. We have heard from other cooperative members who are taking the Doha commitments into real action. With deep apologies. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you so much, everyone.